nearly 3/4 of health systems are piloting AI. Again, most executives are expecting it to drive revenue at this point. It's crucial for a lot of systems right now, and it's also the capability of handling it is becoming a risk factor, a critical risk factor that leadership needs to be aware of. How is AI changing the executive role today, and what happens when that leadership readiness for AI, for these pilots and initiatives, just does not keep pace with where we are today in this environment? Mike, well, I'll start off with you.
Well, of course, I'd have to start with the toughest question here on the bank today. Anyway, so I think number one, when you look at AI or even broader, like a data strategy and so forth, from a pure organizational perspective, you've got to have a really solid strategy of where you're headed with this and where you're going to play in data and AI. As we've learned throughout this journey with AI, you got to make sure you're contextualizing the AI. You got to make sure that your principles, your governance, ethical principles are sound. The guardrails are there before you start really going all into AI, because it could have very, very, very costly kinds of consequences. But I do think there's a role for AI. We're seeing it when people are building new, especially new facilities, new hospitals and the like. People are going all in on some of the back office functions. If you talk about logistics and so forth, it has a great application for that. More on the operational side of things. We had a discussion in our leadership team yesterday about AI's impact, say, on radiology, and is radiology going to be here in the next 5, 10, 15 years? And, there is, I kind of fall on the side of AI is going to help, I think, our clinicians make really solid decisions moving forward. But I don't think it's going to, I personally don't think it's going to replace the knowledge base, the skill sets that we need in these specialties moving forward, at least in our generation anyway, because there's so much out there that one has to learn that, again, you've got to make sure you've got the right inputs on the data to understand that that's going to have the right implication for whatever specialty you're talking about. But I do think it's going to have a role in transactional positions for sure. And I think we have to be mindful of our workforce in terms of how we outline and do change management around AI in terms of replacing versus helping or augmenting what we're doing today.
Rob, I saw you nodding your head specifically on the change management piece here. I know that's very critical. It takes leaders to actually understand, right, to be able to make informed decisions. What does this look like from your perspective? How has AI changed that executive role and the readiness piece of this with two?
Well, I think a couple thoughts on that. One would be the position itself right now, the influence of AI, I think is really around bringing information to the table to make more informed decisions, right? I don't know how much of an impact today at the C-suite level it's radically changing the position itself. I think that's coming. I think that there will be times where we'll see that evolution take place. But it's really now about adoption. It's here to stay. AI is not going anywhere, all right? AI is here to stay. And I would say with what Mike said earlier, I couldn't agree more from a change management perspective. When you start talking about AI, that almost immediately instills a sense of fear with the workforce. And I think healthcare is uniquely positioned such that AI is not going to inform or take the place of that human touch, that patient-centered care. Right. That there's nothing that's in that space that can replace that. That's heartbeat to heartbeat kind of stuff, right? And so I think the change management around that, and really helping through a formal strategy, an adoption strategy with guardrails and governance that is communicated early and often with the workforce, especially in those areas where it's going to begin to be implemented, is absolutely critical. Because short of that, what you will begin to see is a spike in turnover And you'll start to also see, I believe, some cultural erosion as well. So very, very important to think about.
Yeah, one of my favorite terms, the human in the loop, comes to mind, right? Especially as we look to
That's
the future of AI here. Betty, I'm sure there's not one interview that doesn't pass without questions about AI at this point. It has to pop up for every search committee, so to speak. Again, from your perspective, how is this changing the executive role? What does this look like when folks are looking? Is this person actually ready? Is this person able to lead us through this rapid transition period that we're seeing right now?
Yeah, I think leaders must become translators between technology and operations. So it's not, to me, it's not just about implementing AI, right? That's the easy part, but it's about redesigning the workflows around it and being able to communicate the impact to the work and to the efficiencies of that role. I also think that the executive role is becoming more data driven as a result. They now have access to unprecedented analytics, and they must be able to interpret it and act on it quickly.